The Sun is a star that the Earth orbits around. The Sun provides light during the day, but also during the night thanks to it reflecting off the Moon. It also provides warmth so that we don't freeze to death. I thought I'd open up with this because so far in 2026, Scotland seemingly has forgotten what the Sun is. The weather to start off the year has been dreadful, and this has had an effect on the footballing calendar. Dundee United have had 3 games postponed, while their neighbours Dundee have had a singular postponement. Aberdeen have had 2 games called off. Even Livingston, with their artificial pitch, have had a game called off. The Championship has fared worse, with only Raith, Airdrie and Ross County having all their home fixtures fulfilled, with St Johnstone and Arbroath having 3 games called off each, with all 3 of St Johnstone's being the same fixture against Ayr in the KDM Evolution Trophy, where it's got to the point where the game had to be moved to Falkirk to get it played. And as you can probably imagine, it gets even worse the further down the pyramid you go. With winters getting worse, with this recent January being the wettest in history, it is worth asking the question: should Scotland move their footballing calendar to a summer season? Scotland is the most northerly professional league in Europe to maintain the traditional winter calendar. Football started in both Scotland and England through cricket clubs looking at a sport that can be played over the winter months to stay fit. The summer leagues in Europe are Belarus, Estonia, the Faroe Islands, Finland, Iceland, Kazakhstan, Latvia, Lithuania, Norway, Republic of Ireland and Sweden. Belarus is the most southerly summer league, but due to their flat geography, get very heavy snowfall, seeing as Russia is right there to the east. Same can be said for the Baltic and Nordic states. Iceland has the shortest league season in Europe, with only 22 games played between April and September, thanks to them being an island just south of the Arctic Circle, while the Faroes are a more northerly Shetland, so it is of no surprise their league is summer-based. The more interesting and therefore relevant mention on this list is of course the Republic of Ireland. Ireland has a footballing history intrinsically linked to the other nations of the British Isles, with the Home Nations Championship, the New Nations Cup between youth teams, movement of players between the two islands, and most importantly, the climate. Like Scotland, Ireland's west coast borders the Atlantic Ocean, so rain, wind, and storms coming from the west will hit there first. It's why Ireland is so green. Footballing wise though, Ireland would be a winter league after they gained their independence, as the whole Ireland League prior to this was also a winter league to keep in line with the leagues in Scotland and England. This system would remain for 80 years until in 2001, the league's clubs voted to change over to a summer league. The reasons being to reduce fixture clashes with English football on television, boost attendances as well as commercial and marketing opportunities, improve playing conditions, and encourage better preparation for the teams competing in European competition. After a shortened 2002-03 season that saw them only play 3 rounds of fixtures rather than 4 against each other, playing between July and January, 2003 would see the first summer Premier Division season. So, has this improved the standard of the League of Ireland? Well, 2025 saw total attendances breach 680,000, smashing the record that was set by the league the previous year at 620,000, and it has just been continual rise in attendances for the past 10 years. All the clubs in the league are now professional for the first time, with European performances massively improving, with Shelbourne and Shamrock Rovers reaching the Conference League phase, while Dundalk managed to reach the Europa League group stages. Speaking of European qualification, this is another reason why there have been calls for Scotland to switch to a summer calendar. It is believed that switching to a summer calendar would allow clubs to already be up to speed when the qualifiers start in late July or early August. When it comes to recent encounters between Scottish sides and Summer League sides, this season saw Celtic knocked out by Kazakh side Kairat Almaty, last season saw Kilmarnock beat Norwegian side Tromsø, but St Mirren were knocked out by compatriots Brann, having beaten Icelandic side Valar. 23-24 saw Aberdeen knocked out by Swedish side BK Häcken, while Hearts came from behind to beat Norwegians Rosenborg. 22-23 saw Motherwell lose to Irish team Sligo Rovers, and 21-22 saw Rangers lose to Swedish side Malmö, while Aberdeen beat Häcken and Icelandic side Breiðablik. Celtic were knocked out of the Conference League by Norwegian side Bodø Glimt, but that was in knockouts in February before their season even started. So, since 2021, the record reads 6 wins, 6 draws, and 8 losses. Not great, and there definitely have been some poor results in there, but nothing too substantial to suggest a summer league team has an inherent advantage over us. Even then, when it comes to the coefficient standings, Norway is the highest ranked league, sitting in 14th, Sweden are currently 19th, one place behind Scotland, Ireland and Iceland are 31st and 32nd, Finland are 35th, Kazakhstan 37th, Latvia 39th, Faroe Islands 40th, Estonia 43rd, Lithuania 46th, while Belarus are sitting in 50th, only above Luxembourg, Montenegro, Georgia, Wales and San Marino. Of course, there are other circumstances when it comes to these leagues' coefficient rankings. Belarus have been in freefall since sanctions were placed against them for their aiding of Russia in their current invasion of Ukraine. Basketball is more popular than football in Lithuania and Latvia. Ice hockey is the number one sport in Estonia and Finland. The Faroe Islands is home to 50,000 people, so imagine Clackmannanshire having its own national team and league with Alwa and Sochi going on European adventures. Iceland, as mentioned, is an island nearly in the Arctic Circle with a population not much bigger than 5. Kazakhstan is barely in Europe, and Ireland has only just become a fully professional league. Of course, there are the considerations of fans and whether it is something that people actually want. Thankfully, I run a podcast, and after a round of fixtures where 2 games were postponed, I thought I'd ask a question.
I don't think I've really given it much thought, Callum. I've got to be honest, but I mean, I don't think empty that would be against it. I mean, it's just the thought of watching like football in the summer. I mean, going to a game, shorts, fit my top. You know what I mean? Like, it's good. But I don't know how they'd work around it with a League Cup kind of group stage, mind you. So obviously that is played in the summer. So I think they would have to kind of, don't know, move that back to knockout kind of stages kind of thing. But so I do like the Betfred kind of group stages. I will be honest. That's your only kind of real, you know, taste of like what summer football would be like. You know what I mean? Um, but I don't know. As I said, I'm not really giving it much thought. But when you've got these many postponements, you know what I mean? It does. You've got to ask these kind of questions, don't you?
Of course, there is another way of preventing a bunch of these postponements: allowing high quality Astro services. Keyword being high quality before you bring up Livingston and Kilmarnock. Unfortunately, the Premiership clubs decided to ban them, so can't go down that route. It should be noted, however, that summer football isn't completely unheard of in this country. Amateur leagues in the Highlands and Islands play on a summer calendar, which, again, makes sense when you consider geography and climate in those regions. In professional leagues, however, the League Cup group stages currently take place in mid-July, and for the most part, it's great. I was up in Elgin for their game against Wraith, and it was great, aside from the near heat stroke from it being 30 degrees. However, that is a lot more preferable than being up there when it's about 2 degrees and raining and grey. It should be noted that with those sort of temperatures, water breaks were in place, which is an issue that players will have to deal with, but it's better than dealing with frozen or waterlogged pitches. The idea of switching the professional leagues to a summer league, though, isn't new. Back in 2015, the BBC reported that 9 of the 12 Premiership teams were among the 27 of the country's 42 senior clubs who said they would be in favour of examining the possibility, with 7 clubs saying such a move would not interest them and 8 just not offering anything. Of course, there are arguments against a move to a summer league. International breaks currently take place in March, June, September, October and November, while international tournaments every 2 years take place in July, unless they are being hosted in the Middle East. UEFA now also have club competition games taking place in January, so would fall into the pre-season of summer leagues, where there would be a lot more player turnover, something that would be limited for these competing clubs by UEFA squad registration rules. There are also the issues with player contracts, with players in summer leagues having their contracts run out in either November or December. It can limit players as to where they can go upon contract expiry, as any new clubs will be taking on players mid-season and without having a pre-season. We have also seen a shift away from summer leagues in some circumstances. The MLS is currently in the process of transitioning to a winter league, despite having teams from New York, Boston, Minnesota, Seattle and Portland to name a few places with exceptionally harsh winters. And Japan is also going through the same process, despite having teams from Hokkaido. These leagues and some other winter leagues get around these winter issues, however, by simply having a large break. The SPFL recently tried to implement a 2-week break over New Year, but this never really got anywhere, and issues still arose in late January and early February. This removal was also down to the lack of manoeuvrability in the event of postponements, as the league effectively lost 4 game weeks to put fixtures in. So, what is the way forward? There is probably a middle ground in all of this. Poland, for example, starts their extra-class season in the middle of July, whilst having a winter break between mid-December and the beginning of February. Although it should be noted, there's no League Cup in Poland, and they also only play 34 games versus the Premiership's 38. Maybe a change to how the leagues are set up so there are less games can help. I'm personally a fan of the idea of having 3 SPFL leagues with 16 teams, playing each other twice rather than 4 times, and this would allow for greater flexibility with game weeks. Maybe we just allow plastic pitches. All the other leagues in a similar climate and geography to us allow them, and whilst yes, they can still get frozen, they don't get waterlogged anywhere near as often. Unless you're Montrose, who went down an experimental route of using wood chips instead of rubber pellets for their Astro. In the end, does it really matter? We get bored enough as it is without football over the summer. Rafe had a week off recently, and I felt lost having this free Saturday with nothing to do. And also, what would we do over Christmas and New Year without football? Talk to our families? That's all for this video, and of course, I hope you enjoyed. Should we switch to a summer league? Should we implement a proper winter break? Or do we simply suffer through the winter like those before us? Let us know in the comments below. Channel memberships are available. Those who have signed up have their names on screen now. Liking, sharing, and subscribing are all appreciated, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.